I hadn't meant to see her that often. It just started happening. The cafe near the train station, small, too warm, always smelling faintly of cinnamon, was her usual stop after work. It had become mine too, though I told myself it was for the coffee. I'd sit by the window with my laptop open, pretending to study. She'd walk in around 5:30, coat slightly open, the kind of tired that still looked elegant. She always noticed me, she always said hello. Back at it again, she'd ask, nodding toward my laptop. Trying to? I'd say. And she'd smile like she saw through it, like she knew I hadn't typed a word in 20 minutes. Her name was Claire, my friend Ethan's mom. She wasn't supposed to be part of my day-to-day orbit, but when Ethan left town for work, she and I somehow stayed in touch. A stray text about his whereabouts became a check-in, then a habit. You eating properly? Did you find that internship? Always practical. Never too much. Today though she looked different. Her hair was still pinned back, but a few loose strands framed her face, catching light like pale gold threads. She ordered her usual, flat white, extra hot, and sat at the table across from mine without asking. Ethan called, she said. He says he misses you. Yeah, I should call him. You won't, she said, almost teasing, almost knowing. I looked down at my cup, tracing the rim with a fingertip. Maybe I just don't know what to say anymore. She didn't answer right away. Her hand hovered above her saucer, steady, patient. The silence filled the space between us in a way that felt too specific to be casual. You're still figuring things out, she said finally. That's normal. Even at 24. She smiled softly. Especially at 24. Something about the way she said it, gentle but heavy, made my chest tighten. I caught myself glancing at her hands, the quiet movement of her fingers folding a sugar packet even though she never took sugar. A small, nervous tick, maybe. Or maybe something else. She noticed me watching. What? She asked, half smiling. Nothing. Don't lie. You always look like you're about to say something and then don't. I laughed quietly, rubbing the back of my neck. It's safer that way. She looked at me for a long time, long enough that I almost forgot to breathe. Then she leaned forward, voice lower. You really don't know what you're doing to people, do you? I froze. For a second, I thought she was joking, but there was nothing playful in her eyes. Just that strange, charged quiet. She reached across the table and brushed a strand of hair off my forehead. So small a gesture that anyone watching might have missed it, but it felt like the room exhaled all at once. When she pulled her hand back, I wanted to say something, anything, but the moment had already folded in on itself. She stood, gathering her bag. You should get some air. Don't stay in here all evening. Her tone was back to normal, kind, distant, but her eyes lingered. After she left, I stared at the empty chair across from me. My reflection in the window looked younger than I felt. Like someone who'd just stumbled into a conversation he wasn't ready for. My phone buzzed. A new message. Claire, next time, let me buy you dinner. I owe you for all those coffees. I didn't reply. I just watched the screen fade to black, my thumb hovering above her name, heart caught somewhere between wanting to go back inside that silence and being terrified to. It was supposed to be dinner, nothing else. At least, that's what I told myself while standing outside her house, holding a bottle of wine I was too young to pretend I knew anything about. Claire opened the door before I could knock. She wore a soft gray sweater, sleeves pushed up, hair loose for once. The kind of casual that made you feel like you were intruding just by noticing. You made it, she said. I almost didn't, I admitted. Got lost on the way. Again. You've been here before, she said, half smiling. Inside the house smelled faintly of rosemary and detergent. Warm, lived in. There were framed photos of Ethan on the shelves, graduation, baseball, awkward teenage smiles. My stomach knotted at the sight of them. She caught me looking. He sent those last month, she said, voice softer. Said he misses home but not enough to visit. I didn't know how to answer that, so I just nodded. She poured the wine, 2 uneven glasses, and gestured for me to sit. The meal was simple, pasta, garlic bread, nothing fancy. But there was something about the quiet between us that made it feel heavier. Like every pause meant something we weren't ready to name. She told me about her divorce halfway through. Not directly, just in passing, like it wasn't meant to be heard. He's remarried now, she said. Good for him, I guess. We just stopped talking the same language. I looked up, but she kept her eyes on her plate. I didn't know, I said. Most people don't. You don't exactly lead with that at PTA meetings. There was a small laugh there, brittle at the edges. I wanted to tell her I understood. The loneliness, the pretending. But what did I know? I was 24. My heartbreaks still felt like open-ended stories. Hers seemed written in ink. After dinner she made tea. We sat on the couch, mugs warming our hands. The TV was on low, some cooking show no one was watching. At some point, she reached over to fix the collar of my shirt. Just that, a tiny, ordinary gesture. But her fingers brushed my throat, and suddenly every sound in the room felt distant. The TV, the clock, even my own breath. She froze, realizing what she'd done, but didn't pull back right away. Sorry, she murmured. Old habit, I used to fix Ethan's like that. I wanted to tell her it didn't feel the same, but I couldn't. I just sat there, heartbeat loud in my chest, pretending to sip my tea. The silence stretched until she leaned back, eyes on the floor. You're too kind, you know that. People your age don't usually notice things. Or care to. I shrugged. Maybe I noticed too much. She smiled faintly, the kind that hides behind it. And then, almost without thinking, she placed her hand over mine, brief, light, but enough to leave its warmth long after she moved it away. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. After that night, something changed. We didn't talk about the hand on mine. We didn't talk about the silence that followed. But it was there, hanging between every message, every glance, every pause. She texted less often now, shorter replies, always polite. Still, I found myself walking past her street after work, pretending it was the shorter way home. Sometimes her living room light was on, faint and golden behind the curtains. Sometimes I thought I saw her silhouette moving, slow, deliberate. Then one evening, she called. Ethan's coming to visit, she said. Just for a few days. You should drop by. He'd like to see you. Yeah, sure. The pause on the line wasn't empty. It was careful. I should go? Too much to clean. When I arrived that Saturday, the house felt different. Brighter. Music playing softly from somewhere in the back. Ethan was sprawled on the couch, grinning like always, teasing me for showing up without warning. Claire appeared from the kitchen, apron on, hair tied back. She smiled. But it wasn't the same smile. It was one meant for company, polite and neat around the edges. We talked, laughed a bit, all surface, level stuff. But I caught her looking at me once, then again. Quick, stolen glances that flickered and disappeared before they meant anything. When Ethan went out to meet a friend, she walked me to the door. The air between us was colder than it should have been. You're quiet tonight, she said. So are you. She gave a small laugh, tugging at her sleeve. You make things complicated, you know that. I'm not trying to. I know. That's the problem. The clock ticked somewhere behind us. She stepped a little closer, not enough for it to be deliberate, not enough for it to be safe. I don't even know what this is, she whispered. It doesn't have to be anything. That's not true. For a moment, neither of us breathed. Her hand brushed against my arm, light, accidental, but enough to make my pulse stumble. I thought she might say something else, but the sound of a car pulling into the driveway broke it. Ethan's headlights swept across the windows. She stepped back. You should go, she said quietly. I nodded but didn't move right away. She reached past me to open the door, her shoulder brushing mine. Close enough to feel her breath, the faint scent of tea and rosemary. My hand lifted slightly, almost without thought, to touch her wrist, then stopped halfway. Her eyes met mine, steady but tired. Don't, she whispered, not angry, just certain. I dropped my hand. She looked at me one last time, then turned away, pretending to adjust something on the counter. Outside, I heard her exhale, long, quiet, and for the first time, I wasn't sure if she wanted me to leave, or if she was trying to convince herself she did. It was late when she called again. No reason, no greeting. Just a soft, "Are you still awake?" I said yes, even though I wasn't. She said she couldn't sleep, that she'd gone for a walk by the river, and it was colder than she expected. I told her I'd meet her there before thinking twice. When I arrived, she was sitting on a bench near the bridge, coat pulled close, hair loose again, the glow from a nearby street lamp turning her face half gold, half shadow. You didn't have to come, she said. You called. As she smiled faintly, eyes on the water. That's becoming a bad habit for both of us. We sat in silence for a while, watching the river move, slow dark, carrying bits of leaves and city light with it. Somewhere behind us, traffic hummed softly, like the world had decided to keep its distance. You ever think about leaving? I asked, trying to fill the quiet. All the time, she said. Then I remember I wouldn't know where to go. I nodded, tracing a finger along the wet bench slab. Same. She looked at me then. Really looked. You have time, she said. You can still decide what you want. Her voice cracked just slightly on want. What if I already know? I said. Her eyes flickered. Then maybe it's the wrong thing. We let the silence expand, long enough to make it uncomfortable. Finally, she spoke again, barely above the sound of the water. You remind me of him sometimes. Ethan. She shook her head. No, his father. I didn't know what to do with that. The words felt like something she shouldn't have said, like a door she opened without meaning to. I shouldn't have called you, she murmured. But you did. She turned toward me then, face lit only by the streetlight's edge. Her eyes were tired, but there was something else there too, something that made my pulse stutter. I don't want to ruin anything, she said quietly. You're not. I am. You just don't see it yet. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I didn't care about what should or shouldn't be happening, but the words caught in my throat. She reached out suddenly, fingers brushing my sleeve, holding there just long enough to mean something before she pulled back. I don't know what you think this is, she whispered. I think it's real, I said. She laughed softly, almost sad. Real isn't always right. The wind picked up, carrying her hair across her face. I wanted to reach out, to move it aside the way she once did for me. But I didn't. Instead I asked, then what are we supposed to do? She looked at me for a long time, lips parted like an answer was there but refused to come out. The river kept moving. Her eyes didn't. And that's where she left it, an unfinished sentence hanging between us, heavier than anything she could have said out loud. She disappeared quietly. No fight, no conversation, no sharp edge to it, just space. Texts went unanswered. Calls rang out and stopped, for a week, then two. At first I told myself she was busy, then that she was tired, then that I'd imagined the whole thing, that the way she looked at me by the river had been a trick of the light. But she wasn't gone, not really. I still saw her in small ways. Her car in the grocery lot, the empty chair at the cafe, a folded scarf on the counter when I picked up mail from her house. Her world kept moving. I just wasn't in it anymore. It took a month before I saw her again. By accident. I was walking home from work when I passed the cafe and caught her reflection in the window. She was sitting with someone, a man I didn't recognize. His hand was on hers, casual, familiar. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I almost went inside. Almost. Instead, I stood on the corner, pretending to check my phone while my chest buzzed with something I couldn't name. Wasn't jealousy exactly, wasn't sadness either. Just that slow, heavy sinking that comes when you realize you've misread something that mattered. That night, she texted. Just one line. You should stop waiting around for people like me. I stared at it until the screen dimmed, then typed a reply, wasn't, deleted it. Typed again, are you okay? Deleted that too. Finally I just set the phone down and let the message sit unanswered on my end, a mirror to the weeks she'd been gone. Days passed. I tried to return to something like normal, work, friends, small talk. But everything felt thinner, like life had been drained of its color. One evening, Ethan called out of nowhere. Mom says you've been busy. Haven't seen you around. His voice was casual, but the mention of her name sent a ripple through me. Yeah, I said, just trying to sort things out. He laughed. You sound like her. Always sorting something out. I almost told him, almost said how his mom looked at me that night by the river, or how her hand had trembled when she brushed mine. But the words caught on something too heavy to move. Later, I walked by the river again, same bench, same sound of water, only now it felt smaller, like the space had shrunk since she'd been there. A single text sat drafted on my phone. I'd been rewriting it for days. You don't have to explain. Just tell me if you're okay. I didn't send it. Just stared until the cursor stopped blinking, until the phone screen turned black and reflected my own face back at me, tired, older somehow. I didn't feel heartbroken, I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. It was raining the night she came back. Not heavy rain, just that steady, whispering kind that makes the whole street sound like it's holding its breath. I almost didn't open the door when I heard the knock. It was late, and I'd already decided not to wait anymore. But when I looked through the glass, she was there, hood up, damp hair clinging to her cheeks, eyes tired in a way that made my chest ache. "Hi," she said. Her voice was soft, uneven. "You're hard to find when you don't want to be. I could say the same about you." She smiled, small and brief. "Can I come in?" I nodded, stepping aside. She slipped in quietly, like she was afraid the house might reject her. The smell of rain followed her in. She stood in the middle of the living room, looking around like it had changed since she'd last been here. It hadn't. Just the air had. "I wasn't sure if I should come," she said, wringing her hands a little. "I've been trying to figure things out." I leaned against the counter. "Did you?" As she exhaled through her nose, a small shake of her head. "No. Not really." The silence that followed wasn't tense, just heavy with everything we hadn't said. "I saw you at the cafe," I admitted. "With someone." Her eyes flicked up. "You weren't supposed to." "Yeah, I got that." She took a slow breath, then said, "Hay's no one. Just someone who reminded me that I should try to be normal again." "And how'd that go?" Her laugh was quiet, cracked. "You can probably guess. I wanted to be angry, or hurt, or something clearer than what I felt. But all I could think was how tired she looked. How human." She moved closer, enough that I could see the small raindrops still clinging to her lashes. "You make it hard to do the right thing," she whispered. "What's the right thing?" "Not this." She tried to smile again, but it fell apart halfway. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. I started needing you, and that scared me." Something in her voice broke open then, not loud, just real. "I don't want to be another person you have to carry," she added. I shook my head. "You're not. You never were." For a second, neither of us moved. Then she reached up, fingertips brushing my jaw, almost like she was checking if I was really there. "I keep thinking," she said quietly, "if I were 10 years younger, or you were 10 years older, it wouldn't change anything," I said. Her hand fell away, slow, deliberate. "Maybe not," she murmured. The rain outside softened to a drizzle. She stepped back toward the door, then hesitated. Looked at me, really looked. "I don't know what happens next," she said. I swallowed. "Me neither." She nodded once, as if that was enough. Then, before leaving, she reached for my hand. Just a brief squeeze, a quiet, human okay. And then she was gone again. But this time it didn't feel like she was running. It felt like she was finally telling the truth. Time passed, the way it always does, quietly, without ceremony. Winter turned to early spring. The river thawed, and the cafe started opening its windows again. The same barista, the same cinnamon smell, the same soft hum of a world moving on. I saw her there one morning, by accident, or maybe not. She was sitting at her usual table by the window, a cup of black coffee cooling in front of her, phone turned face down. Her hair was shorter now, softer around her shoulders. She looked up before I could decide whether to approach. That same small, knowing smile found its way to her face, the one that never reached for attention, only acknowledgement. 84-7, she said, glancing at the clock. "What? You always used to show up at 84-7, not 8:45, not 8:50. I laughed under my breath. "Was some things don't change." We sat together, not planning to. The conversation was light, books, work, the weather doing its unpredictable April thing. But beneath it, something else hummed, something settled. She asked about my job, I asked about Ethan. Everything sounded simpler now, even the things that used to sting. "I sold the house," she said eventually. "Too big for just me." "Where will you go?" "Nowhere far. Small apartment near the park." "The same park?" She nodded. "Same bench." That word, the bench, hung between us like a shared secret. The river, the rain, the near confession. Everything that once felt impossible had turned into something quietly lived in. "Do you ever think about that night?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Just stirred her coffee. Slow circles, the kind that keep you from saying too much. Sometimes, she said. But it doesn't ache anymore, I nodded. Me neither. She smiled then, really smiled. That's good. Means we did something right. We left the cafe together. Walked in the same direction without deciding to. The air smelled faintly of rain again, soft and new. When we reached the corner where our paths usually split, she paused. Tea or coffee tonight? She asked. I looked at her. You're still pretending to give me choices. She tilted her head, amused. You always did like pretending you had them. For a moment, we stood there, both of us half smiling, both knowing what it meant without saying it. Then she reached out, lightly, naturally, her hand brushing mine before settling there. Not tentative, not hidden. Just there, no grand words, no promises. Just two people who had finally stopped running from what had already found them. The world kept moving. Cars, footsteps, distant laughter. But for that brief, quiet stretch of morning, it felt like we'd stepped outside of time. And in that stillness, I realized something simple: love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just stays.